Sean Diddy Combs has recently been at the center of a highly publicized federal trial that concluded on July 2, 2025. The jury delivered a mixed verdict finding him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution but acquitting him of more serious charges including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. The trial lasted for 7 weeks and involved emotional testimonies from former girlfriends including Casandra Ventura, known as Cassie, and another woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane. Timeline of key events. September 2024, Combs was arrested at a Manhattan hotel following a grand jury indictment that included multiple charges related to sex trafficking and prostitution. May 2024, additional charges were filed against Combs, increasing the total to 5 counts. July 2, 2025, a jury delivered a mixed verdict. Combs was acquitted of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges but found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Post-verdict, Judge Arun Subramanian denied bail citing the nature of the convictions and set a sentencing date for October 3, 2025. Charges and verdicts. Combs was indicted on several counts including 3 related to sex trafficking and 2 for transportation to engage in prostitution. Ultimately, he was found guilty of the prostitution-related charges, each carrying a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Preliminary calculations by prosecutors suggested that Combs might face around 4 to 5 years of imprisonment based on his convictions. Emotional testimonies. The trial featured graphic and emotional testimonies from Ventura and Jane. Ventura detailed her experiences with Combs, alleging that he coerced her into sexual encounters that were often drug-fueled and violent. She described these encounters as freak-offs which Combs purportedly directed. Ventura testified about feeling pressured to participate in these activities to maintain their relationship and avoid his wrath. Another former girlfriend, Jane, corroborated Ventura's experiences, sharing her own feelings of pressure and financial dependence on Combs. Jane recounted her experiences during hotel nights where Combs would watch her engage in sexual activities with male escorts, emphasizing her discomfort and lack of consent in these situations. Defense arguments. Combs' legal team argued that the relationships were consensual and claimed that the prosecution exaggerated evidence to support their allegations. They did not call any witnesses during the trial, instead focusing on cross-examinations of the prosecution's witnesses. The defense suggested that the women involved had willingly participated in the activities and sought to undermine the credibility of their testimonies. Public and legal reactions. Following the verdict, Combs expressed relief at the acquittals but remained in custody pending sentencing. His attorney sought immediate release citing the nature of the convictions, but Judge Subramanian denied the request for bail. The case has generated significant media attention, with discussions focusing on the implications of the verdict for accountability in the entertainment industry. Prosecutorial claims. The prosecution painted Combs as a manipulative figure who exploited his power and fame to coerce women into sexual activities. They argued that his actions constituted a criminal enterprise that involved drugs, violence, and manipulation. The emotional testimonies presented by the prosecution aimed to illustrate the alleged coercive environment created by Combs. Differences in sources. Various news outlets reported on the trial, each emphasizing different aspects. CBS News focused on the legal implications and Combs' reactions in court, while Time highlighted the broader impact of Ventura's testimony on activism against abuse in the entertainment industry. CNN provided live updates but encountered technical difficulties during coverage. Conclusion. The trial and verdict against Sean Diddy Combs have raised significant questions regarding consent, power dynamics in relationships, and the complexities surrounding sexual abuse allegations in the entertainment industry. Combs is scheduled for sentencing on October 3, 2025, and the outcome of this case will likely continue to influence discussions on accountability and justice in high-profile scenarios. The content you provided revolves around Sean Diddy Combs' recent legal troubles. specifically his trial and the resulting verdicts concerning allegations of prostitution, sex trafficking, and racketeering conspiracy. The information within presents some counterintuitive aspects that are noteworthy. Here are several points of counterintuitive information identified from the content. 1. Mixed verdicts on serious charges. It is counterintuitive that Combs was acquitted of the more severe charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, yet found guilty of the lesser charges of transportation to engage in prostitution. This outcome suggests that the jury found sufficient evidence to convict him on less serious allegations while simultaneously determining that the more serious accusations did not meet the burden of proof. 2. Bail denial despite acquittals. Another counterintuitive element is the judge's decision to deny bail despite Combs being found not guilty of the most serious charges. Typically, a not guilty verdict on significant charges might lead to a presumption of innocence and a release from custody. But the judge cited the nature of the remaining convictions as a basis for continued detention. 3. Prosecutors focus on emotional testimonies versus legal standards. The prosecution's case heavily relied on emotional testimonies from former girlfriends, including graphic details of experiences that suggested coercion and abuse. However, the jury's decision to acquit on the more serious charges indicates a gap between emotional appeals and the legal standards required for conviction, suggesting that emotional narratives do not always translate into legal culpability. For public perception versus legal outcomes, the public might expect that emotional and graphic testimonies would result in stronger verdicts against Combs. But the jury's decision reflects a more complex reality of legal proceedings where the burden of proof and legal definitions of consent and coercion play significant roles. This discrepancy highlights the difference between societal expectations of justice and the realities of the legal system. 5. Testimony consistency versus legal definitions. Several witnesses, including Ventura and another woman referred to as Jane, testified about coercive situations and their feelings of pressure. Yet the defense's argument that these encounters were consensual, and the jury's acceptance of this narrative to some extent, suggests a counterintuitive outcome where subjective experiences of abuse did not suffice to meet legal definitions of coercion under the law. 6. Impact of past relationships on current legal outcomes. The case also illustrates how past relationships and settlements can influence current legal perceptions. For instance, Ventura had previously settled a civil lawsuit against Combs, which may have affected how her testimony was perceived in the context of the criminal trial. This raises questions about whether previous settlements undermine or bolster the credibility of future allegations. 7. Expectation of sentencing length versus actual convictions. Although Combs faces potential sentences that could add up to 20 years, the preliminary calculations suggest he might serve significantly less time based on the nature of his convictions. This counterintuitive aspect highlights how legal outcomes can sometimes result in lighter sentences than public sentiment might demand. 8. The role of fame and power in legal proceedings. The trial underscored the complexities of how fame and power can impact both the legal process and public perception. While the prosecution portrayed Combs as a manipulative figure who exploited his position, the acquittals suggest that the jury may have been influenced by the nuances of his celebrity status and the defense's portrayal of the relationships as consensual. These counterintuitive points indicate that legal outcomes are often influenced by a variety of factors, including emotional narratives, public expectations, and the intricacies of legal definitions, demonstrating the complexity of justice in high-profile cases like that of Sean Diddy Combs. Important overlooked content in Sean Diddy Combs' trial report. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs has garnered significant media attention due to its high-profile nature, the celebrity status of the accused, and the serious nature of the allegations. However, certain nuances and implications of the case remain under-discussed in mainstream coverage. Below are critical elements that many might overlook, along with their significance. 1. Mixed verdict and its implications. While the guilty verdict on the transportation counts implies some degree of accountability, the acquittals on the more serious charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking suggest a complex relationship between the legal system and allegations of sexual misconduct. The jury's decision indicates that while they found evidence sufficient to convict on lesser charges, they were not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt regarding the more severe implications of organized crime and coercion. Significance: this mixed verdict raises questions about the thresholds for proving coercion and the broader societal understanding of consent. It highlights the challenges in prosecuting cases of sexual violence, particularly when they involve power dynamics and celebrity status. The legal system's failure to secure convictions on more serious charges may perpetuate a culture where high-profile individuals can avoid severe consequences for their actions, potentially discouraging other victims from coming forward. 2. Testimony of former girlfriends. The emotional testimonies of Casandra Ventura and the pseudonymous accuser Jane are crucial, yet often reduced to sensational narratives in media reports. Both women described experiences that involved coercion, fear, and manipulation, painting a picture of systemic abuse rather than isolated incidents. Significance: these testimonies underscore the importance of believing and validating the experiences of survivors. By framing their experiences within the context of broader societal issues such as the normalization of violence against women and the exploitation of power in intimate relationships, this trial can contribute to larger discussions on consent and abuse in the entertainment industry. The testimonies also shed light on the psychological impact of such relationships, emphasizing that the effects of abuse extend far beyond physical acts. 3. Role of the jury. The jury's dynamics, including their deliberation process and the eventual partial verdict, reflect the complexities that jurors face when assessing evidence in cases of sexual violence. Reports indicate that the jury struggled with the racketeering conspiracy charge, suggesting deep divisions regarding the evidence and implications of the case. Significance: understanding the jury's challenges can inform future legal strategies in similar cases. It highlights the need for clearer definitions of coercion and consent, as well as the potential biases that jurors might bring into the courtroom. This complexity calls for more comprehensive jury instructions and possibly reforms in how sexual violence cases are prosecuted to ensure that jurors can effectively evaluate the nuances of such allegations. 4. Cultural reflections on consent. The trial has sparked discussions about the nature of consent, particularly within the context of celebrity relationships and the entertainment industry. The defense's arguments suggesting that the relationships were consensual raise critical questions about what constitutes consent, especially in scenarios where power imbalances exist. Significance: this trial reflects a cultural moment where the definitions of consent are being challenged and redefined. By examining the blurred lines between coercion and consent, the case can contribute to ongoing conversations about sexual ethics, particularly in environments where fame and power play significant roles. It can also influence how future legal cases are approached, emphasizing the need for a more nuanced understanding of consent that takes into account the complexities of interpersonal dynamics. 5. Impact on activism and the Me Too movement. The involvement of Ventura and other women in the trial highlights the role of activism in addressing sexual abuse and violence. Ventura's prior civil suit and her testimony can be seen as part of a broader movement that seeks to hold powerful individuals accountable for their actions. Significance: the trial's outcome may serve as a litmus test for the effectiveness of the Me Too movement in achieving justice for survivors. Ventura's courage in testifying can inspire others to speak out and seek justice, reinforcing the idea that accountability is possible even against influential figures. The case may also prompt discussions about how the legal system can better support survivors and address their needs in the aftermath of trauma. 6. Media representation and its consequences. Different media outlets have portrayed the trial and its outcomes in varying lights, with some focusing more on the celebrity aspect and others on the legal implications and testimonies. This disparity in coverage can shape public perception and influence societal attitudes toward issues of consent and abuse. Significance: the media's framing of the case can have lasting effects on public discourse around sexual violence. Sensationalist coverage risks undermining the seriousness of the allegations and the experiences of survivors. A more responsible media narrative that emphasizes the legal nuances' psychological impacts and the broader societal implications of the case can foster a more informed public dialogue about consent and abuse. Conclusion: the trial of Sean Diddy Combs is not merely a legal event but a significant cultural moment that highlights the intersections of power, consent, and societal norms regarding sexual violence. The overlooked elements discussed here underscore the need for a more comprehensive understanding of these issues as they resonate beyond the courtroom and into the fabric of society. The outcomes of such high-profile cases can shape not only legal precedents but also the collective consciousness surrounding consent, accountability, and the experiences of survivors. 1. Mixed verdict and implications for legal accountability. Sean Diddy Combs' trial concluded with a mixed verdict that highlighted significant issues related to legal accountability in high-profile cases involving sexual misconduct. The jury acquitted Combs of the most severe charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, while finding him guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. This outcome raises critical questions about the standards of evidence required for conviction in cases involving sexual exploitation and the potential implications for future legal standards in similar cases. The acquittals could be perceived as a message that the legal system does not adequately support victims, particularly in instances where coercion and manipulation are difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. 2. The role of emotional testimonies. The emotional testimonies from former girlfriends, particularly Casandra Ventura and the pseudonymous witness Jane, played a pivotal role in the trial. Their accounts detailed experiences of coercion, violence, and drug use, framing a narrative that depicted Combs as a figure who exploited his power and influence. The graphic nature of their testimonies was crucial in shaping the jury's perception of the case and underscored the complexities of consent and coercion in intimate relationships. This aspect of the trial emphasizes the importance of survivor voices in legal proceedings and raises discussions about how emotional testimony can impact jury decisions, especially in cases involving allegations of sexual violence. 3. Defense strategies and their limitations. Combs' defense strategy focused on portraying the relationships as consensual and claiming that the prosecution had exaggerated evidence. The defense did not present any witnesses, relying instead on cross-examinations to undermine the testimonies of the prosecution's witnesses. This approach raises questions about the effectiveness of such a strategy in cases where the emotional weight of testimonies can significantly influence jurors. The absence of a robust defense narrative may have contributed to the guilty verdicts on the prostitution-related charges, suggesting that a more proactive defense could have potentially mitigated the outcomes. 4. Cultural and industry implications. The trial and its outcomes resonate beyond the courtroom, reflecting broader societal issues regarding sexual abuse, consent, and power dynamics within the entertainment industry. The case has sparked discussions about the accountability of public figures and the cultural narratives surrounding masculinity, celebrity, and sexual ethics. Ventura's actions in bringing her allegations to light despite the mixed verdict have been characterized as a pivotal moment for activism against abuse in the industry. This ongoing dialogue about the treatment of survivors in both the legal system and public discourse highlights the need for systemic changes to better support victims and hold perpetrators accountable, particularly in high-profile cases where power dynamics are at play. These 4 points encapsulate the complexities and societal implications of the trial, serving as a foundation for deeper analysis and discussion on issues of consent, legal standards, and cultural accountability. 1. The trial of Bill Cosby. 2017. Bill Cosby, once celebrated as America's Dad, faced a highly publicized trial in 2017 for the sexual assault of Andrea Constant, a former Temple University employee. Cosby was accused of drugging and assaulting Constant in 2004, which led to a criminal trial that became a focal point in the Me Too movement. After a mistrial in 2017 due to a hung jury, Cosby was retried in 2018 and found guilty of 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. He was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. The trial highlighted the complexities of consent power dynamics and the cultural implications of sexual assault allegations. 2. The Harvey Weinstein Case 2020. Harvey Weinstein, a former Hollywood mogul, was convicted in February 2020 of rape and sexual assault stemming from allegations from multiple women. His trial was a landmark case in the Me Too movement as it brought to light the systemic abuse and exploitation prevalent in the entertainment industry. Weinstein was found guilty of 2 of the 5 charges against him, receiving a sentence of 23 years in prison. The case not only led to a significant cultural shift regarding sexual misconduct but also prompted further discussions about accountability and justice for survivors. 3. The trial of R. Kelly. 2021. R&B singer R. Kelly was found guilty in September 2021 on racketeering and sex trafficking charges after a highly publicized trial that revealed decades of sexual abuse allegations against him. The prosecution presented evidence of a criminal enterprise that exploited young women and girls. Kelly was accused of using his fame and influence to sexually abuse minors and young women, often under the guise of mentorship. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison, and the case ignited discussions about consent, abuse of power, and the responsibility of the music industry in protecting victims. The case of Sean Diddy Combs has far-reaching implications for the entertainment industry's societal norms regarding consent and the legal landscape surrounding sexual misconduct. As the dust settles following Combs' mixed verdict, convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution but acquitted of more severe charges, the future outlook is multifaceted. Legal and societal implications. 1. Evolving legal standards. The trial has highlighted the complexities of consent and the need for clearer legal definitions of coercion in sexual relationships. As more individuals come forward with similar allegations, legal frameworks may need to evolve to provide better protection for victims and clearer accountability for perpetrators. Future cases may see a shift toward prioritizing victim testimony and experiences, potentially leading to more convictions in sexual misconduct cases. 2. Impact on the entertainment industry. High-profile cases like Combs could serve as a catalyst for change in how the entertainment industry addresses allegations of abuse and misconduct. We may see a rise in advocacy for safer work environments and stricter policies regarding conduct and accountability for influential figures. The industry might begin to adopt clearer guidelines to prevent coercion and abuse, particularly in the context of power dynamics in relationships. 3. Increased reporting and awareness. The publicity surrounding the trial may encourage more victims to come forward with their stories, fostering a culture of transparency and accountability. The Me Too movement has already paved the way for discussions about abuse in various industries, and cases like Combs could further amplify these conversations. Public perception and cultural shifts. 1. Changing norms around consent. The trial has opened up discussions about what constitutes consent in intimate relationships, especially in the entertainment realm where power imbalances are prevalent. Society is gradually moving toward a more nuanced understanding of consent, recognizing that it cannot be assumed and must be actively sought and respected. 2. Celebrity accountability. The outcome of this trial may lead to a broader push for accountability among celebrities and public figures. Fans and the public are increasingly demanding that their idols be held accountable for their actions, which could alter how celebrities navigate their personal and professional lives. The perception of invulnerability that many celebrities enjoy may begin to diminish. Criminal justice system reforms. 1. Focus on victim support. There is likely to be an increased emphasis on providing support for victims in the judicial process. This could manifest in the form of better resources for legal representation, counseling, and advocacy services. As victims feel more empowered to come forward, the system may need to adapt to accommodate their needs sensitively and effectively. 2. Legislative changes. In response to high-profile cases, lawmakers may introduce new legislation aimed at addressing sexual misconduct more effectively. This could include stronger penalties for sexual offenses, improved reporting mechanisms, and enhanced protections for victims during trials. Lawmakers may also consider reforms to laws that currently allow for the intimidation of witnesses or victims. Predictions for Sean Combs. 1. Sentencing and beyond. With Combs facing a potential sentence of 4 to 10 years for his convictions, the next phase of this case will be his sentencing on October 3, 2025. Depending on public and legal opinions, this sentence could influence future cases and the way celebrity misconduct is handled in court. 2. Reputation and career impact. Regardless of the sentencing outcome, Combs' reputation has taken a significant hit. The verdict may limit his future opportunities within the music and entertainment industry, as collaborators and brands might distance themselves from him in light of the allegations and convictions. 3. Potential for appeals. Combs may pursue legal avenues to appeal the convictions, which could prolong his legal battles and keep the case in the public eye. This could create further discussion about the justice system's handling of sexual misconduct allegations, especially in high-profile instances. Conclusion. The trial of Sean Diddy Combs has illuminated critical issues surrounding consent, power dynamics, and accountability in the entertainment industry. As society grapples with these themes, the future will likely see a continued push for reform in both legal and cultural contexts. The implications of this case extend beyond Combs himself, potentially affecting how similar cases are handled and how victims are supported in the future. Whether through legal reforms, cultural shifts, or changes within the entertainment industry, the landscape surrounding sexual misconduct is poised for transformation in the coming years.